Researching new ways to deal with wireworms in crops. This is Rural Roots Canada, and I'm Eric Smith, getting to the stem and meat of agriculture. Entomologist Dr. Haley Catton talks about how they are going back to the drawing board in dealing with pests after the chemical that was used to control them was phased out. More on her talk at WheatStalk coming up.
This feature brought to you by the Alberta Wheat Commission.
Dr. Haley Catton, an entomologist at the Lethbridge Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada Research Station, is starting a new project to try and figure out new ways to control wireworm.
Okay, so wireworms is, in Alberta anyway, it's a series of species that are native species that live in the ground in their larval stages. And they'll live in the soil for like 5 years or more, eating the roots of the crops and thinning out crops. So wireworms are pretty tough to control because they live in the soil, so they're really hard to sample for. They have a long lifespan. They'll eat a whole bunch of different crops. And in recent years, the chemicals that used to be used to control them have been phased out. So producers aren't left with many chemical options. So we are kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit and trying to go back to the basics and say, okay, are there other ways we can control wireworms? Crop rotations maybe. So that's a project that I've just started up this spring.
Catton says as a result they are now going back to basics with a 3-year research project. Catton is now looking for farmers who have problems with the pest.
Yes, I'm looking for people with wireworm fields, so fields that you feel have a wireworm problem. That will be wheat next year. And we're looking for a variety of different crop rotations, including canola or not, basically, in the last 2 years. Because we're trying to see if having canola in your crop rotation a few years previous can affect your wireworms today. Because remember, they're living in the soil for multiple years, so their memory goes back like 3, 4, 5 years. So we're looking for people with wireworms in their fields that are within a 2-hour drive of Lethbridge.
Catton talks about why farmers should take beneficial bugs into consideration when applying pesticides.
But sometimes the only insects people know are the bad ones. Right? They maybe even think every insect is a bad one. But that's not the case. There's only a couple pest species really in relation to all the other insects that are out there doing good things. So beneficials will eat the pest insects. So maybe they'll eat the eggs of the pests, maybe they'll eat the larvae of the pests, maybe they'll eat weed seeds. So they're doing free labor basically.
Dr. Haley Catton is asking farmers to weigh the pros and cons when applying pesticides. Dr. Haley Catton says you may just be hurting beneficial bugs who are helping your crop. The entomologist at the Lethbridge Agriculture and Agri-Food Research Station says there is a whole mix of bugs in your crops.
Most famous groups is what we call the ground beetles or carabid beetles. These are usually big black beetles that live on the surface of the ground, and they're running around on the ground looking for weed seeds, looking for any little insect that's living on the ground. They're really voracious predators, really.
Catton gives an example of these bugs.
To convey the message that there's a lot of different kinds of bugs in the fields, and sometimes spraying for the bad bugs might shoot you in the foot because you're going to kill all your good bugs too. And remember, those good bugs are doing free labor for you, and they don't recover as well from spraying as a pest does. So your pest may rebound and then your beneficials don't rebound. So we're hoping that producers will consider the whole insect community that's in their field when they make their spray decisions.
Catton says she would love to focus on some of her research on learning more about the monetary value these beneficial bugs have, so she can pass along the information to farmers so they can make more informed decisions. For now, she says farmers will just have to put their faith in knowing that they have an unpaid army at work in their field. Catton is encouraging farmers to bring forward their perspective on what their research priorities are for entomology, as she is in the process of building a new program at the research station. For more research features, go to ruralrootscanada.com. For Rural Roots Canada, I'm Eric Smith, getting to the stem and meat of agriculture.